오늘 세미나 인도해 주실 분은 미셔너리 정연욱 선교사님인데 일단은 몇 가지 제가 어떤 부분을 소개를 드리면 좋을까 이렇게 여쭤봤더니 저한테 이렇게 뭔가 좀 매뉴스크립트를 주셨거든요. 그래서 제가 좀 읽어보도록 하겠습니다. Manuela and I have been married 19 years. Manuela was a missionary in Taiwan for 7 years before she left to marry me. God has blessed us with Jenna, right? And Nathaniel, right? 14. Both of them are doing well here in Chiang Mai, Thailand. The Lord has indeed taken care of my family. These days, our major issue and then emotional challenge are the last stage of the preparing the Jana for the college and the adulthood. So they've been actually in Thailand for I think for 9 years now, and then he's currently belong to an organization which is called Cadence International. It's a headquarters in England, Colorado. So it's my great honor to introduce missionary Uk for today's seminar. So let me quickly pray for today's meeting, and then I'll bring it up to the stage. So let me pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your hosting this wonderful 2019 mission conference here in San Jose at San Jose Korean Presbyterian Church. This time we are really honored to have your servant, missionary Uk from Thailand. Please bless this time abundantly so that through him we may learn how you have worked in Thailand and how you have taken care of your soul living in Thailand as well. So I pray again through this time we may all learn your love for every single soul in this world. I thank you this time. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So please.
All right, thank you. Well, it seems like we have a big auditorium, but not so many people. So if you don't mind, I would ask you to come forward, and because I would like to run this seminar as more interactive and much more cozy, so you can also ask questions at any time. Okay, I'd like to switch to the PowerPoint, and I'd also like to be closer to you. So if you don't mind, I'll just step down here and be able to talk to you face to face. Okay, so as was mentioned, I work with the military and police in Thailand. Oops, I was given instructions and I'm already forgetting it. Okay. Okay, this is my family, this most recent picture over at the Navy base called Sattahip. We have a fledgling fellowship there at the Royal Thai Navy, and while we were visiting on our vacation, we took this picture by the ocean. So I spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force, and my best assignment was with the AWACS, flying on board this aircraft with its long-range radar, and that was the kind of business I was in. Controlling, talking to aircraft, looking at my radar screen, and communicating with them on radio. And once I finished that, Manuel and I, we both felt that the Lord wanted me to go to Bible school. So we went to Columbia International University. And while we were there, God gave us the next step, which was to get into the military ministry. We decided to focus on foreign military because we felt the Lord had given us cross-cultural abilities. So instead of ministering to the U.S. military, we decided to go to the foreign ministry. And we didn't know where or what was available. But God happened to send a recruiter to our campus who had the exact team that the kind of ministry we're looking for. And that was in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And that's how we ended up in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So today, I would like to share a little bit of the experiences we've gone through in our ministry over the past basically 10 years, and then some of our lessons learned and how to do discipleship ministry cross-culturally in a Buddhist country. So I think most of you are familiar with geography, so that's where we are. And this is the vision that we have. We would like to see fellowships develop in Thailand and be organized into a national organization that is self-sustaining and growing by themselves. So in effect, we are trying to let our Christian brothers in Thailand develop their own ministry. So we started off very indirect, providing money, providing some training, but we let the Thai people run it themselves. And then that led us to many lessons. Because the first 6 years, aside from learning language, getting to know the culture, we tried to do ministry in a way that just did not produce a lot of fruit. So I would like to use the parable of the seeds, where we saw, basically, the people we met, we saw representation of each one of the soils. There were people that we share with, and they had no interest, so they're hard ground. Rocky soil, there were quite a few people that, when we spoke to them or participated in activities, they were really excited, and that lasted for about 6 months or so, and then we never heard from them again. So that represents a lot of the rocky soil. The thorny soil probably is our biggest challenge, mostly because although people become Christians, it takes a long time for them to transform, to develop their souls, their practice, changing from cultural habits to biblical habits. And we'll have quite a few problems, and I'll share a couple stories that will mention that specifically. And praise the Lord, there is good soil. There are even young people. Right now we have a 20-year-old in the Royal Thai Army, grew up in a Christian family, very strong believers, and ever since the beginning, his main goal to go into the Army was to make disciples, make new disciples in the Royal Thai Army. So he got in another one class above him, a young man that's nicknamed Jonathan, who's named Jonathan even though he's from Thailand. That's his nickname because his parents wanted him to be like Jonathan, just a strong man of God. When he was actually taking the entrance exam to get into the pre-academy, the academy prep school, Jonathan really felt the Lord wanted him to be a policeman. But he didn't make the cut initially. He was on the waiting list. But he just knew inside that God wanted him in there. And sure enough, what happens is just a few months later, they announced that he was in. In fact, he was the last person, he was second to the last person to get into the academy off the waiting list. So for some reason, he has a prophetic spirit that allows him to know that God has a plan for him. So we have good soil. So I would like to share some stories of how things have gone with various people we've met. So one of the lessons I learned is that we need to cultivate that thorny soil. We need to get in with the people, get our hands dirty, get involved with their messy lives. And the example I have is one of our retired policemen. He became a Christian miraculously. Just one day, he immediately stopped drinking, stopped smoking, stopped womanizing. He stayed with his wife, and his whole life changed. But there were some things that still had a stronghold in his life, and I trusted him too much at the beginning, and tried to release him into ministry. But he basically failed and had other priorities. But we stuck with him, and as we just studied the Bible together, slowly he developed into a person that's now has taken the initiative to start a ministry at a local police station. So it takes long years, but I believe cultivating that thorny soil can actually produce some good fruit. Okay, our ministry is discipleship ministry. Because it's a foreign military, I can't really just walk into the camp and say, "Hello, here I am. Can you let me just meet people?" So I need to gain access, And then I need to be a very low threat to the government. So because if they feel that I'm trying to manipulate something in the government, or if I'm trying to take away their power in some way, then I'll be shut down very quickly. So our ministry straw can really only be personal, person to person, and developing relationships. So if there's any big activity, it has to be all Thai-driven, Thai-led, done. But this is also the strength that I believe God has given me, just going person to person. So our ministry is discipleship-oriented, and I get chances to teach the Bible with lots of people, like new recruits, and then I'm trying more and more to get individual times. Okay, I'm going to share a couple stories. Any questions right now about the kind of work we do, maybe some family history? Yes.
So, can you give us a little bit more description about the city Chiang Mai? Yeah, because there must be several other cities, but I don't know why you chose.
Oh yes. So the question is why can I give some more information about Chiang Mai, Thailand, and why we ended up there? Well, basically we ended up there because the person that started this particular ministry lives in Chiang Mai. His name is Ron Wilson. He was working for Cadence, and now he's started his own organization. And then we've had other people come in and join us. But Chiang Mai is up in northern Thailand. In fact, I'm going to go back to our map. So it's up there in the northern part of Thailand. It's in a mountainous area, and it's a very nice, small city. It's got plenty of traffic, but it has lots of nature around, and it's just a nice place to live. Everything we need, even though we might have to pay a little more, has all modern conveniences. Pretty much most of the foods and things that we like, we can buy. So everything's available. Another good thing is it's relatively inexpensive, and most of important, it's in a country that's fairly stable. So a lot of missionary agencies will have their conferences there. They'll have retreat centers, member care. We have 2 counseling centers there. So it's really a nice hub for a lot of the missionary organizations throughout the world, so including ours. And the people there, because it's in the north, a lot of the believers there are from the tribal areas. The tribes mostly come from religions that are animist. And animists become Christians much easier, because if they're worshiping an evil spirit, or if they're afraid of an evil spirit, when they hear the good news about Jesus Christ, and He being the one true God, the most powerful God, it's much easier for them to switch allegiance and become Christians. The Buddhists is a completely different situation. But in Chiang Mai, up to 10% of the people are Christians, even though in the country, it's less than 1% are Christians. So Chiang Mai has a lot of Christian influence, and one of the interesting things is they started closing businesses on Sundays. So when the Christians started closing businesses on Sundays, a lot of other people started closing businesses on Sundays. So it's interesting how that influence has an impact on the society. Anything else? Okay. Any other question? Yes?
But doesn't that also mean they can switch again?
Perhaps, but when the Thai pastors or the missionaries, when they explain and ask for commitments, especially at baptism, they have to deny all other gods. They will worship the one true God and the Lord Jesus Christ, and they specifically say, do you deny and just forget all other gods? So I guess it could happen that they switch back, but they've made a solemn promise at that point. So we assume the Holy Spirit is going to continue to help them.
So I missed the percentage of the population of
Mm-hmm.
China.
Yes, so in Thailand, it's 0.7, so less than 1%. 0.7 are Christians. But in Chiang Mai itself, up to 10%, depending on which surveys you look at, are Christians, or at least are registered. So that 10% is probably people that are registered or go to church. The genuine true Christians, perhaps maybe 5%. Okay, but again, much higher than the rest of the country. Yes, so the next major religion is Islam, probably about 2.7 to 3%, and then about 95% are Buddhist. However, the new generation, they are not very religious. So they're Buddhist because they're Thai, but a lot of them are not practicing much. Okay, any other questions? All right, let me go back. I would like to share a story about a young man that God is using in the ministry that's also facing many challenges that everybody faces in the Royal Thai Army. So, I'm sorry. So Posen is his name. He's to the right of the man in the white shirt. And the man in the white shirt is our national leader. His name is Surasak. So if you're here at the church, you're familiar with that name, but many of the visitors may not. So Posen became a Christian. I'm sorry. He became a Christian at a young age because a Royal Thai Army colonel started to minister to him. So a colonel is a very, very high rank, but he decided to just follow up this young man, share time with him, share the gospel, and invite him to his church. And eventually he became a Christian. And he's the only Christian in his family. So the picture on the left is when he was first became a believer, and then on the right is the most current one. So he entered the Academy Prep School, and his story is about loneliness and fellowship, how when you're part of a population that's mostly Buddhist, and you could be the only Christian among 200, you can get quite lonely and quite intimidating. So here's a story about that. So he entered the Royal Thai Army Academy Prep School. And when he got in there, he was among 500 and his classmate. And he felt that he was the only Christian. So he was obviously very lonely. But because of Facebook, he was able to look around. He found the Facebook page of the Military and Police Christian Fellowship of Thailand. So three of my colleagues run that page, and so I got connected. He says, "Am I the only Christian around? Are there any other Christians in the Thai military?" And then, of course, there was an enthusiastic response, and my friends went down to see him at the academy, and started forming a bond, encouraged them. We have a general in our fellowship. And he started writing documents so that they could have a room given to them for worship. Because in Thailand, there's religious freedom. So they have the right to meet together once a week. And as a government facility, the Army is obligated to provide a room for them. It's because most places, they already have places for Buddhists, obviously. And for people that practice Islam, they usually have a prayer room for them as well. So they got that facility, and then he started walking around and asking people. So he got boldness, asked people, and then he found about 11 other Christians. And then they started meeting together, and for the first couple of years of his academy time, pre-academy time, he had a regular fellowship. But he never stands still when you're in the military, because every year you're changing. And so after that, he had to go to China. He was chosen, he was chosen as an academy exchange cadet. So in some ways it's an honor, but the Chinese government has a strange way of doing things, as you know. So he goes to China, and instead of mixing in with the Chinese academy students, the Chinese don't want foreigners to mix and give their Chinese cadets wrong ideas. So they separate them. So they have students from Pakistan, Suriname, Cameroon, lots of other countries, but they separate them. And so the foreign exchange students are in one school, and the Chinese academy cadets are in a different school. So he didn't really get that much interaction with the Chinese. But he learned Chinese because the Chinese government wants to bring Chinese culture to these foreigners. So they taught him Chinese language, and they gave him Chinese culture. So, but on the other hand, again, he felt very alone for 4 years because he was the only Christian. He did have one other nominal Christian that was from Africa, but they never really prayed together or anything like that. So it was a challenge for him to stay faithful. He probably developed some habits that weren't so great. But because he learned Chinese, I was able to invite him to go to Taiwan. In Taiwan, there's a very good military fellowship. So I invited him there, and when he got there, because he could speak Chinese, he was able to interact with the cadets there. And that was a real boost to his faith. So after that, he came back to Thailand when he graduated, became an officer, and he was assigned to lead new recruits in training. And at that point, he used what he had and started having Bible studies with these new soldiers. So he'd find Christians or Christian background people and start doing Bible studies. And in fact, at Christmas time, he got permission from his commander to bring a team from one of the local churches and Surasak, the national leader, to do an outreach. And at that point, about 15 or so of these new soldiers decided to follow Christ. And then he continued to have Bible study with them. So again, his life has been going between loneliness to having fellowship and now leading Bible studies. Unfortunately, at current time, he has been transferred to the political hotspot in southern Thailand. And he has written me that he feels lonely again. He has no other Christian friends down there. He can't get time off to go to church. And then he's also confessed to me that it's been hard to stay faithful. So he feels far from God at this point. So if you could pray for him, that would be wonderful. So loneliness and feeling alone is one of the big things that our friends in Thailand face. These are the soldiers some of the soldiers that decided to follow Christ that he had Bible study with. Got New Testaments from the Gideon Society. Okay, next person is Captain Santi. He is a Navy captain. That's a fairly high rank in the Navy, just before they become admirals. And his story is more to do with fear and needing courage. I find that very interesting that people at high rank actually have quite a bit of fear. Any of you can guess? Can you guess why? Why do people in high positions have fear as a believer and not being afraid to witness or even say that you're a Christian? Okay. Well, you're a high rank, you've already got a high position, and you want to get promoted again, so you don't want to make waves, right? You don't want to get on somebody's bad list. You've already have a lot of things. You don't want to lose what you have, right? That position and power and the pay that goes with it. So this took me quite a long time to figure out why this man didn't do anything. When I say didn't do anything was he became a Christian miraculously. God showed tremendous power, including the healing of his son. He was given training by missionaries and by the national leader. But for about 10 years, he would have great ideas, and then we'd encourage him to do something, and then after several months or after a year, still nothing happened. He just stayed, just did his job, and didn't hear anything. So when he came up with the idea of Project Daniel, and I'll explain that in a minute, Manuel and I went down and visited him. He had already made a lot of ideas and plans. He was ready to go. For about a year, he kept talking about it, but he didn't do anything. So we went down just to visit him and encourage him. And when Manuela and I went down there, he started putting those ideas on paper. He made a plan, and then subsequently, he actually started the program and ran it. So it was quite interesting that encouragement is such a big thing. I never knew that. I thought knowledge of Bible was the most important thing to teach. But I've since found out that in addition to that, they need a lot of encouragement, just person-to-person contact, especially with fellow brothers and sisters. Okay, so Santi started the program called Project Daniel for non-commissioned officers. Those are the sergeants the rank of sergeants, if you're familiar with the military. So they're not officers, but they still are leaders. And the idea is that he would get students, prepare them for the national exam, because that's required in Thailand, to get into the school. And during the time of the training, he would also develop them spiritually, and give them ministry skills, encourage their faith, and help them to increase their Bible knowledge. So he would also do that at his church building. It's not like a building like this. It's more of a business building where you have shop at the bottom and apartments on top, and they're in a row. It's more like a row house. So it's a very simple place, but we were able to use that facility. So I provided some resources to help make a dorm room upstairs, improve the classroom facilities and so forth. But the most important thing is, just by doing a few things here and there, he actually took the initiative and basically ran the program for 4 months. And the result was that he was able to successfully get one of the students in. So the young man in the sports outfit, his name is Bright. He was actually able to go through the program, grow in his faith, and become a Navy NCO, a non-commissioned officer. It's quite interesting. He's also the only one and the first one in his family to become a Christian. So he's got a lot riding on his shoulders. Okay, the final person I'd like to mention is Tien Chai. He is a Air Force. Yay, you go Air Force. And he is in the security forces. But the interesting thing is, he came to be a believer late in his life. He was about 56 years old when he came to know Christ, thanks to a local church. Then when I first met him, I was riding his car, and his car still had a lot of these mini Buddhas. He had lots of charms and amulets hanging from his rearview mirror. He had been Christian about 6 months at that time. So I was rather skeptical. What kind of person is this? You know, was it a real faith, or is he going to syncretize his faith with other religions? But, you know, we need to be careful about judging people, because God is working in people's hearts. It takes time for people to change. So as I got to know him 1 year, 2 year, it's interesting to watch as he was growing, those little mini Buddhas would disappear from his car. And after about 2 years, it was completely clean. So he had grown in faith. So I thought, okay, this is good. I have a new friend, but I didn't think too much of it because he was already age 58 at that time. And then, but I was completely wrong, because as soon as he retired at age 60, he had a tremendous zeal to evangelize. He got training all by himself. He went to get training. He started learning the Bible himself. He would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day to read the Bible, and also to help with his wife with their business. So it was pretty amazing that age 60 was when he started becoming fruitful. So right now he's in evangelism. I'm trying to work with him to go evangelizing into a couple of the Air Force sites. There's a nice radar site on top of a mountain. We've been there once, and we're hoping to go back up there to share the gospel with a lot of the Air Force people there. But the main thing I wanted to share here is, you know, we just never know who God will use. So I was expecting more of the young people, because that's where I'm focused at. But quite often God will surprise us and bring us people like this, who becomes a major partner. Okay, I'd also like to pause here and see if there's any questions. Any questions about the people? Yes? Yes. So the question is, how much time, what's my family life like, and how much time do I have for work, per se? Or vacation? Yes. Okay, well, I'll start with the dry information first. The dry information is our company, Cadence International. We have certain regulations because it's a company. Well, it's not a company, but it's a charity organization. So I get up to 30 days of vacation. I'm required to work 40 hours a day, but I'm basically just one or two couples that are over in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and the headquarters is way back in Colorado. So really, we're in charge of our own time. So I'm like an independent businessman. I have to work with my own and have discipline to arrange my time. So that has been good in some ways, but not so good in some other ways, because I do better with structure. I do better inside a team. And for several years, I've not had a team. So right now, we're building a new team, and I feel I can be more efficient that way. But our family life has been good as far as time-wise. I've been able to spend quite a bit of time. I get to see my son play soccer, see my daughter play clarinet in the band, or play volleyball now. And so I get to choose the family time currently. But sometimes things start to happen. My Thai friends will start to have activities, then I need to be available. So sometimes that will pull me away. And I do quite a bit of traveling. But overall, I believe there's a good balance. And do you have any thoughts on that? Manuela's here, so if you'd like to ask her a question, that'll give me a little break. Did I answer yours? Okay, great. Any other questions?
Thank you for sharing several people's story. I wonder if there is any persecution or opposition against Christianity publicly or outwardly.
Yes, persecution against Christians. As in many countries, there's immediate family persecution. And then if they're from a village, there could be the community pressure. There is no direct government persecution because it's freedom of religion. So any persecution will come from the people around you in some way. And that can be done. And if you're in the military, of course, your commander could keep you from getting promoted. He could give you bad jobs and things like that. But what's been interesting is when I listen to the stories of my friends who are Thai Christians in the military, they say about 10 years ago, all the Christians were hiding. So they wouldn't say they were Christians, they just do their job. But over the past few years, he said that has changed. In some ways, it was because the Islamic or the Muslim officers, they were actually the first to stand up for their faith. So they said, we demand our mosques, we demand our prayer time. They won't participate in the Buddhist ceremonies that goes with the job in the military. But that also with their faith now has changed around, where the Christians will say, I'm Christian, right away, and they don't hide. And it's interesting how suddenly we're seeing a lot of high-ranking officers and government officials just announcing that they're Christians. So I think the Christians are standing up for their faith a lot more in recent years. Right. Well, I can do that. Let me just finish up with Tian Chai. So again, Tian Chai is a person that you wouldn't expect. If you just met him on the street, you wouldn't expect him to be anyone that would do great things. But I believe he's doing great things for the Lord. So I think the description that I use is it's like the newly planted rice. After working with hard soil and rocky soil for so long, I feel that God is starting to show some signs that there may be much more fruit coming on in following years. And we pray for that. Okay. Oh, and some of the signs that I'd like to share with you are these. So in the Chiang Mai Fellowship, they started Project Daniel, and this may be a good point to share a little bit more about Project Daniel. So the idea for Project Daniel is that if we can graduate students that we know are Christians from the beginning, get them into a training program, and then allow them to become soldiers or airmen or policemen, then they'll start forming small groups wherever they are. And as they form small groups, continue to evangelize and share the gospel We're holding on to the promise that the fields are ripe for harvest. We just need workers. And then they will grow and have bigger fellowships. Then that obviously provides mutual support for all the people that are in the military. So that's the idea. To have an organized, a purposeful way to get strong Christians in the military and then help them to organize. So that's the overall idea of Project Daniel. Okay, the other things happening is there's been a cadet house in Bangkok for about 5 years. I'll try not to be too critical of my Thai brothers because a lot of them just don't have ministry skills. But there was a great idea that having a house in Bangkok where the cadets can come and stay and be comfortable and be a place where they can hear the gospel, have Bible study, and so forth. The only missing ingredient at this point is that there's nobody there. So they have this house with nobody to minister to them. So they sort of got the place but not the person. So, but now we're starting to see something happen where I think the missing ingredient would be to train somebody to go there and maybe not live there, but they can at least go there every weekend when the cadets get off duty and do Bible studies and things like that. So there's things happening like that, and several people are saying that's what they want. So that's a little sprout. The Sahib Fellowship in the Sahib, where the Navy base is, I sort of explained to you there. I see them starting to get together and work together. So what I mean is, before, this Navy captain with a high rank, he would basically tell everybody what to do. But when I went there last time, just a couple weeks ago, he was actually asking the other church members and military fellowship members to take more responsibility. So I think that's a good sign. We haven't had an annual retreat for the organization, but I think it's critical because people need to come from all over the country and get to know each other as Christians, right? And then develop connections. But it hasn't happened. But again, people are saying they want to have this national conference. And the last point is, Pastor Kang was talking about how teamwork can be very messy. And within the organization, there are different ideas and people going different ways. But this year, I'm seeing them actually start to come and going the same way, talk about the same thing, encouraging each other to do the same projects, same ministry. So I think these are the signs that I'm seeing that could lead to more fruit later. Okay, so I would like to use the last portion of my time to share about lessons learned and some issues. And so if we're ready for that, any more questions before I go there? Yes?
When a team from church came to help your military installation, what kind of impact did we have? Any positive impact?
Okay, this is a great point. So San Jose Korean Presbyterian Church has come to Chiang Mai several times. One of the major things they do is support one church in Maylot. That was an indirect contact through our ministry, so I won't talk about that. But what have they done in Chiang Mai? First of all, one project they did was at an army post. They renovated the guardhouse. It's where the guards come, sleep for their 24-hour shifts, and so forth. It used to be it was very bad condition. There were holes in the roof. The bathroom was really messy, and it's just not a nice place for these guys to stay. So the team came here, and I think we had about 10 come in. Then I asked the commander for some soldiers to increase the manpower, and within 3 days, it was just a complete transformation. If you went there and looked at it from your point of view, if you are from America or even from Korea and you went, from your point of view, it might not look so great. But for their standards, it was just awesome. They even put insulation up so they could actually be cool during the day. What did the impact did that have? Well, that commander has since gone on, but every commander since then, and then all the lower-ranking people that have worked for the commanders, we have a very open door. So that's one base I could just walk in because they know me, and they've seen the Christian love that was shared there. So that has provided an open door, and we just have to find enough Thai Christians to do a ministry and evangelism program, some sort of outreach. And that's been the thing. That's the thing I'm waiting for, is my Thai brothers to form and get together and do something there. Okay, and then the other thing was in Sattahip. They came to Sattahip, the Navy base, and helped basically make the building more efficient and better looking. And I think the most important impact was that they demonstrated what it meant to do your best for the Lord. Because a lot of Thais just have the habit of doing the least and cheapest way possible, just make it good enough so that they can get by. So what the team brought was just professionalism, and just all they did was built a wall, they put in some lights, some doors and things. But Captain Santi, as he observed, he commented to me and said, "This is extremely professional." He had never seen anything like it before. So I think that helped them to realize that in their relationship with God, they don't just do the minimum; they do the best they can, whether it's doing Bible study or doing any other kind of work, especially ministry oriented. They're not going to just do the cheap way, but they're going to put some effort into it. So I think those were the major impacts so far. Okay. All right, let's talk about some of the lessons learned. I think all of my missionary friends will know it takes time to develop these relationships. I think I tended to be impatient sometimes and trusted people too soon because I looked at the outside, whereas God looks at the heart. And sometimes we just have to get to know their hearts, both to encourage them in the right way and to give them or share the responsibilities at the right time. Sometimes we share the responsibility too soon, and we've had a couple incidents that weren't so pleasant. And we have to be available, so it's not always convenient. So I like to be structured. I think a lot of Americans like to structure their time on schedules, but that's not how life is. Sometimes people have a problem, you need to get up and go. Sometimes it's far away. And a lot of the military and police, they don't have time off. So when they have time off, that's when we have to go to them. If you invite them to your office or to the church building or to the cafe, they might not, in fact, they probably won't come. You have to go to them, go to where they are. So that's a complete change in that we have to go out and be available at any time. Lesson number 3, that was a big lesson for me, is how to use money wisely. So we had a situation where we were providing money to this organization, and we didn't give them any restrictions. We just trusted them with the money. But an interesting thing happened. So the first few years, things were going okay. And then whenever they would have a meeting every year, and what was interesting is the level of hotel rates was starting to go up. So first year, they would sleep on floors, they'd sleep at people's houses. Second year, they'd get a cheap motel or hotel. Third year, it would get a little nicer, and so forth. So basically, people were becoming sort of changing from spiritual to becoming more material-oriented because the money was basically coming free. So I think this sort of dependency, the idea of trying to reach the level of the rich missionaries to become at the same economic level, that's a temptation for them. And so currently I definitely don't give any money or resources free unless it has a specific purpose and doesn't go directly into anybody's pocket. It has to be part of a project or something like that. Could I ask some of my missionary friends here to share any experiences they've had in this area? Okay, so you don't have any, well, obviously each place is different. in the ministry, your focus will be different. But basically, I've learned that I have to be very careful and think through and pray about how I use the resources that we have, especially things with money. And I've already decided quite a long time ago not to borrow, not to lend money, because I did that once and the person kept on coming back. So now I have to develop some sort of structure so that I can still help them, but I need to make sure they work and basically structure something so that they don't keep coming back for more money, because that's a bad habit of theirs, of some of these folks. Okay, teaching the word is important. I think every time we get together, I need to share a little bit from the gospel, because quite often people think, people compartmentalize things. So this is church, you go and do your Bible, you have to have a Bible class, and then there's the rest of life. Whereas I would like them to develop that, every part of life we're walking with God. So, and the Bible has application to all of your life. In fact, right now, I'm working with a young man who is heavily in debt. He's a Christian man, he's an Army lieutenant, and basically he had no concept that the Bible had talked about money. So when I introduced him, he was really amazed. And it was funny. One thing I shared was from Proverbs that the lender is the master and the borrower is a slave to the lender. And when he heard that, he said, "Oh, that hurts a lot," because he realized it was true, and he's saying that the word has lots to say about his life. Okay, and finally, the last lesson that I'll share with you is that in Thailand, I found that people need to be shown things. If they learn in a class or in a seminar, they don't necessarily apply things to their life. So we actually have to show them, bring them, and help them watch things or demonstrate something in front of them, whether it's leading a Bible study or something like that. So we have to show them, and just teaching in class just doesn't help as much as actually demonstrating and showing. So in summary, I've tried to share with you a little bit about the ministry that we do. I shared with you some stories about the people that we've been involved with, and some of the lessons that I've learned in our ministry over the past 10 years. And so I would like to again open it up for questions, if anybody has any.
Just going back to the slide before,
Mm-hmm.
to the third point. I don't know if it was implied, but I understand that Thailand is very corrupted, especially the
Yes.
private sector.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, are there any members who try to use Christianity in a way of, in a corruptive,
Mm.
and if you've had any
No.
cases in that?
That's a very good question. In my particular circle of friends, I haven't seen anything like that, but of course they know friends of friends. And unfortunately, yes, there are many things that aren't going well in the area of ministry. There are children's homes with no children, and yet because raising money is easy when you have children ministry, some people will use that to get money for themselves. One of the sad statistics is in one particular seminary, half the graduates go into children ministry instead of planting churches, because it's much easier to raise money, and they generally have higher pay if they go into children's ministry or open up a children's home. Yes, so that does happen. Corruption is in society, and it feels normal to many people. So that's an area of discipleship that we have to really work on. And I feel family life and finances are the two areas that we can help them develop. And if we can help change key people, they in turn can help change the country. Yes. Well, that is the fact of military life, that they are generally moved around. But in Thailand, they can be stationed at the same place, especially at the lower ranks, so they can actually be close to their home. But as far as our location, we have military bases, Army, Air Force, and of course we have a police station everywhere. But the academies are down closer to Bangkok in that region, so I would have to fly down there often. And actually, it's sort of nice. Chiang Mai is, again, a nice place because it's got a nice airport. Thanks to the low-cost airlines, I can fly there cheaply, and it's more efficient to live in Chiang Mai than fly than it is to live in Bangkok. Because Bangkok, we would just lose so much time just in traffic and congestion. Yes.
Have any relationship with local Christians? Help them to go out, witness? Help them somewhere?
Yes, we're always trying to encourage our brothers and sisters to go out and witness. I thought, when I first got there, that Thais would make great evangelists because they know the culture, they know the people, they speak the language. So I expected our Thai brothers and sisters to go out and evangelize often. But they hate it. They hate evangelizing. Because one, you know about relationships. They just don't want to offend anybody. That's a very big value, not offending anybody. My brother from Japan, yes? Okay. And then second is, if they're from a Christian family and they've grown up as Christians, they've actually lost connection with Buddhist culture. So they know superficial, but they don't know how to talk to Buddhists in a way that's understanding. So I find that very fascinating and sad that the Thai Christians themselves can't, well, not like they can't, but it's a barrier for them to evangelize their own people because they've lost touch with how Buddhists think and how they talk. Yes.
Now, I have a question about if you have any chance to work with Campus Crusade in Thailand.
Okay, that's a sad story, but I'll share with you a little bit. I want to work with Campus Crusade in Thailand. Unfortunately, our national leader didn't trust the national leader of the Campus Crusade in Thailand. So we at one time, my friend Ron Wilson had set up a workshop with Campus Crusade down near the academy. It was all set, and then our national leader, because he didn't trust the leader, he just canceled it. And then, because we wanted to work with Campus Crusade because they know how to connect with young people. Their activities, their methods are much better. And what ended up in that camp was basically hours of speeches, and the boys just sitting there in their tight uniforms, having to sit there and listen to people talk, so instead of having the fun activities that the Crusade folks would have had. So I'm hoping to, again, as our ministry grows, I'm hoping to connect with Crusade people.
Thank you.
I'm asking a lot of questions.
That's okay.
What can church help you to do more outreaching? What should be focusing on?
So what can San Jose Korean Presbyterian Church and other churches who support us, what can you do to help us? I think there's no easy answers to that, but I really enjoyed listening to Brother Kang just before. So he says a lot of churches that come and do VBS and those kind of things, and those are good for getting attention, but they don't have much lasting effect. So as we look, I'm currently looking at people with counseling skills, with family ministry skills, those people to come and provide seminars for the people that we know. And those would also be just a great short-term ministry activity for people with those backgrounds. We do things like the construction projects. Since we have a lot of people that like to do that in this church, that's actually quite useful for getting access into the base. So that has been proven to be very useful. But we have to wait until we can organize our Christian brothers to have a team ready and trained to go in and minister. So if we go ahead and do that project, we'll get the open door, but then we don't have the follow-up. So it just has to be timed well. But those are things that can help. And the obvious answer, and the most true answer, is that prayer. In Thailand, it is a spiritual battle. So your prayers are so important. And it may, from here, it may seem distant and mundane, but in Thailand, it's extremely important. And that, I feel, is what's giving us some of these open doors, some of the new sprouts that we're seeing that can lead to fruit later. It's been prayer, because I've done a few things different, but the environment's changed. God has done things. He's making these things happen, and I just have to run to catch up with God. So that's happening because of the prayer that's been coming to support us. So it's hard. I'm sorry there's no more easy answers to your question. For each thing, we just have to think through, see what can be done, and then do a short-term project, long-term project, or other things. And then and then there's just the long-term project. If we like when church members come and visit and see what we do, they don't necessarily have to do a short-term project. They can come, see what we do, take back the news back to the church so they can explain. So I think that's a very valuable thing. And then because we like to know what's going on back here too, as well as allowing people to know what we're really doing, what life is like. So the young man back there asked a very good question, what family life is like. So if someone could come and see, it's a lot easier to understand. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to let Manuela stand up. Do you have any questions for Manuela?
So your question was about the school? Was that your question? No.
Could we have your perspectives on family life?
I think the family life on the mission field is very much like it is in any other country. So when you have smaller children, I think a lot of responsibility is on the mom, just to make sure, depending how old your children are when you move into a different country, because I feel once your children are adjusted, then you are established as a missionary family, and the chances that you can be a missionary on the field are really good, because once kids resent the country or they don't feel good about it and everything about it, then as a missionary you cannot just be as effective, because you then constantly have the conflict at home. So I think, for us, that was, for me, a priority when we moved to Thailand, to Chiang Mai, just to make sure our kids get well settled into the school and have friends and everything. Then the other thing is, like in Thailand and probably in other countries as well, sometimes just the daily things just take longer. Like I need to go every 90 days to the immigration office and report. When we want to leave the country, we need to go to immigration, get a stamp. So things like that take up time. When I do my shopping, sometimes things that I want to find, I won't find them in any store. So you just sometimes walk around and go around. It just takes more time just to do your daily life. And then, like with Ook traveling, now that our kids are 18 and 14 now, sometimes we just left them behind now. We just left them at home. So now things are more possible, that I once in a while just can go with him. But, even when they're older, it's not like mom needs to be there to feed them, but then there are other problems you have to take care of and you need to be available. So we just need to figure out how we can just do that. And Ook said he can participate in a lot of family activities, and that is true, but sometimes it's all of a sudden somebody had the idea of having a meeting and then he just needs to take off. So I have to compensate then for things like that. So yeah, we just have to work together and make things work. Unfortunately for our kids, it has really worked out well. So I'm just so grateful that they like living there, that they have friends, so that makes life a lot easier for us. Mm-hmm.
I have a question about children and language acquisition. I heard people, they are attending international school,
Mm-hmm.
but how are their Thai language acquisition?
Well, the kids, they go to an international school, and English is obviously the language and being taught. but they also require like 6 years all through elementary that the kids, no, all through middle school, they require the kids to have Thai language. But that is not very much if you're constantly in an English-speaking environment. So at the beginning, we actually had a Thai tutor and come to our house and taught the kids, because they can't spend like their whole week just with their English-speaking friends, but our goal is that they feel good about just going into the city. And when we take them to ministry events, sometimes when people talk to them and then they stand there and don't know what to say, so we wanted them to be at least comfortable, that they understand the basic things, what people ask them, that they can converse, that they can go and buy things. So that's why we had the Thai tutor, and both of our kids were, for a while, they were like in a Thai soccer club or went to a dance class with Thais, so that they were just exposed to language that's Thai language. And their Thai, I don't know, our son, when he speaks Thai, he sounds like a Thai. He has this melody. When you don't see him, you would think he is Thai. But both of them feel comfortable. And our daughter, lots of people think she is Thai. She has this like mountain tribe face, obviously. So it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to converse with people, you know, even if they don't understand everything. But it's not the shock. Oh, I don't know what to say. I lived in Taiwan for 7 years, right? Mm-hmm.
Would you mind just sharing a little bit more about why?
Well, I was a missionary before we got married. I was a missionary in Taiwan, so that's why I had my introduction to Asian culture already. But I mean, Chinese and Thai is like worlds apart. But it's just, I think it's something, when you live in Europe, in different European countries, you just understand easier what's going on. And I think this is the same, can be said for the Asian context. So it's easier than it's not like the culture shock when you come the first time to Asia. So yeah, I was working there. I was working in a children's home, and I really, really liked it there. So I was happy when God actually led us back to Asia.
This is a really basic question. I don't know if it was answered, but is Sunday a national holiday?
Not really. Not really. It's, you know, like Uk said, now we see more and more stores, smaller stores, that they're closed on Sunday. But Sunday is more that you can go to the mall. You don't have to work. You can go to the mall. So it's not really a national holiday. So we have like our Muslim community in Chiang Mai. Traditionally, the Muslims we're all down south. Now the Muslim community has grown quite a bit during the last years, and they would have the Friday off. But yeah, we don't really have Sundays as a national holiday.
But they're because it's becoming more global, they're following the
Yeah.
They go to school on Saturday and Sunday.
Right. But that's because worldwide it's more like the weekend is Saturday, Sunday. It's
Well, the military normally works Saturdays, but on Sundays are off.
yeah.
And I saw the picture that you are leading Bible study. Is that done in English or Thai?
Oh, it's definitely in Thai, yes. So, in fact, I've met few people whose English is good enough to talk at deep levels, or definitely not heart level. So I need to speak in Thai, and if it gets too complicated, I also need a translator. And then using a translator, of course, we lose a lot in translation. So we just have to learn the language as best possible.
How is your language acquisition? How long does it take for you to master Thai language?
Let's see, I've been studying for 10 years, and I'm at the level where I can understand like 80% of a Thai pastor sermon. but I cannot talk at heart-to-heart level, and my conversations don't last more than 10 minutes. So that's about the measure I use for my Thai. And also the way I talk is book language. So if I don't use, I'm just starting to use idioms, just local sayings, things like that. You know, because you don't talk like a book to the people around you normally. So that's my current status. But it was much easier to learn when I was in my 40s when I first got there. Now it seems to go in and go out. Let's see, if the border countries in Cambodia, Laos, and parts of Myanmar, Thai can be used. And so if you're in a jam, I could go, while I'm traveling, I can use Thai, and that can be useful. Good question, very insightful. Any other questions or comments? Okay, very good. Well, then I'd like to say a prayer, and then I'll hand it over to our moderator. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time of sharing. We just thank you that you're doing great things, and I am humbled and grateful that all of us, and especially myself, we have sin in our lives, we have frailties, we have things that should be keeping us back, and yet you are gracious enough to use us and allow us to serve you, Lord, and have an impact that can last for eternity. I pray for you to continue to help us grow, and may this time of sharing be fruitful for many of the people listening. I pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.